Maybe I should announce it. Should I?
I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm John.
On this episode of Battlecries and Champagne, let's dance.
All right, boys, let's dance.
Heck yeah, I'm ready to dance.
Let's get this show on the road. Let's get atomic vibe.
Okay, so in this episode, we're going to be talking about David Bowie's 1983 album, Let's Dance. It's a very big one. It really fits the criteria for this season, where we're looking at albums that grew Bowie a new audience. This is definitely that. Let's first talk about how everybody's doing. So, John, you want to tell us what's up in your life?
Just normal, settling in from the busyness of summer. Obviously, this episode's going to be released later. But one interesting thing I noticed, so my partner and I, we've been watching The Bear, popular show, cooking show, drama. And we finished season 3 yesterday. And it's like a really cool culminative episode of the season. Yeah. And it's like, it feels like a lot of things in the whole series are kind of coming to a head there. And in one of like the dramatic like montages, they have Take It and Write actually on there. As like the background music, which I thought was a really cool, like deep cut. They've chosen really cool music for this show. I like the soundtracks they've picked, and I thought that was like very unique, especially since we just did Young Americans. So that was kind of a interesting. Hey, I know that song, and I thought it was a really cool, unique choice. It wasn't a huge pop song they chose for it,
Yeah, I actually saw that episode, and I forgot that they used that song. So
yeah, I think it was Take It and Write, unless I'm mixing it up with another song from the album. But
you should have held up the phone and Shazam there.
Yeah, I should have Shazammed it. Yeah, absolutely. That's Shazam still around?
I don't know. I
haven't used it in years.
I used it recently, actually. It still works.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, all right.
Download
still works, folks.
On your favorite platform.
Sponsored by Shazam.
I feel like Shazam is it's like one of those few apps out there that you can't think of any possible downside, right? Like with most social media, it's pretty clear that there's pros and cons to it, to say the least. You could argue that about Uber. You could argue that about Spotify, even in terms of artist revenue not being maybe what it once was. Shazam has never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
It only is a useful little tool.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, although any product, any app that is free, isn't the rule that if it's free, you are the product?
I don't want to.
Or whatever.
I don't want to.
Whatever. I haven't heard anything evil about Shazam, so I can't really back that up. But yeah.
It's going to turn out that it's owned by like some sinister conglomerate or something that's just data mining the shit out of your phone. And then I'm going to have to retract that statement in our next episode. But...
Aaron, what's going on with you?
Well, as you mentioned, there's a bit of a time delay between recording and release, but I'm hoping to, in upcoming, I should say, a few weeks, I'm hoping to revive Michaelmas, which is a Anglican, Michaelmas. It's
Michaelmas.
Yeah, not Picklemas. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's an Anglican holiday that I saw in an episode of Downton Abbey many years ago. And ever since, I've been fascinated with trying to bring it back. It's supposed to be kind of at the end of September. That's celebrated. So my brother-in-law, who's a chef, we're planning a dinner for like our families or whatever, and we're gonna have some goose, and you have to have some blackberry associated dessert because it's apparently the last day that you're allowed to eat blackberries in the year.
Wait. No, I looked it up just now, and it says it's Michaelmas.
Well, in the episode of Downton Abbey, they pronounced it Michaelmas.
I like Michaelmas, but fair. Downton Abbey is the authority here, so I'll let them take that one. That's interesting. I like blackberries, so that sounds good.
My life's not that interesting. I don't have
no, Andrew, you're not nothing to report.
Just been enjoying a nice like warm September, trying to get outside, and I realize this is probably going to come out in like January. It sounds like a totally bizarre thing to say, but I don't know. Life's been good. Life's been pretty normal.
Okay, well then let's dive in.
Where are we now? Where are we now?
Let's Dance was released in 1983. That is the year in which Canada's Green Party was formed, which, obviously marks a growing consciousness about the environment. It's,
Yay, environment.
Exactly. Obviously, it's a very slow growing movement.
They haven't made it to government just yet.
Yeah.
1983 is also the year, I believe, in March when Ronald Reagan announced the Star Wars program. So we're going to have lasers in space.
Oh, yeah. Technology. Crazy.
And it didn't work, but kind of a key Cold War moment, right? Because it marks an escalation in that nuclear rhetoric and in kind of the standoff between the U.S. and Soviet Union in the military domain, kind of coming back into high gear, as it would be for the next, 6 years. So kind of interesting historical hinge moment. It's also the year in which MASH finally signed off, which is I think still the most watched single episode of any TV show ever, at least in North America. And it's also the year when the compact disc first became available to consumers in North America and Europe. So I think there's a bit of a cultural,
Yeah.
I think those two facts kind of tell you something about where the world is going.
For
Japan did get the CD the year before in 1982, so they were a little bit ahead. And fun little aside, first ever album to be made available on CD to consumers.
Oh, I should know this fact.
Was David Bowie's Let's Dance?
No.
Oh,
No?
I
Oh,
wish.
okay.
It was
All right.
actually Billy Joel's 52nd Street.
Oh, okay.
October
Oh,
1st,
hey,
1982.
that's a great
That's
album.
what I was gonna
Love
get.
Which
that.
is an interesting choice for the Japanese market. But there you go. I guess they wanted something that they would then be able to roll out probably worldwide.
That's really cool. I had no idea that the CD actually was that old, that it had been invented that long ago.
I think it took a while to, displace the cassettes, but the technology, is early 80s for sure.
Well, it had a pretty long lifespan considering 83 to when's the last time you bought a CD? Mid 2010s maybe? I don't know.
I mean,
Well,
I'm still
you're a
fine.
music collector, so yeah. Going with the whole technology thing, actually, another thing that happened in 1983 was the world's first commercial cellular telephone call. So, and it specifies commercial. So I suppose that's actually done over a commercial network or whatever in Chicago.
And this is the Wright brothers, right?
Yeah, it was,
I thought it was Thomas
one.
Edison.
It was one Wright brother calling the other, gossiping about Thomas Edison. Yeah, and then also something that is probably near and dear to quite a few listeners' hearts, or affected many people through the coming generations, was the debut of Reading Rainbow on PBS.
Oh yeah.
Which happened in July of that year. So yeah, obviously that was a huge influence to culture going forward through all the children who watch that show.
Before we move into the next part of the show, I just wanted to actually share a list. We're looking at, by the way, the top singles of 1983 in Canada. I just want to see, because I think this is, obviously we're going to be talking about, the music David Bowie releasing this year, and he's on this list a few times, but this is actually, when you look at this list, it's I recognize so many of these, this is actually a pretty monumental year for music, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of this that you would still hear. I mean, my goodness, we got the Police. We got Bowie, obviously, 3 times. We got Bonnie Tyler, Michael Jackson, Eurythmics. I mean, Toto is
Yeah, look
there.
at number 16 right there.
Yeah, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Lionel Richie. My goodness, this is Styx, Billy Idol.
Oh man, Electric Avenue, Eddie Grant.
Yeah, I don't want to read the whole list to you here, but that is true. There's some stuff here that has aged really well.
Yeah, and I'm actually, I noticed just earlier when I was looking at this list, there's quite a few songs by the Stray Cats. Does anyone know? Do you know this?
I don't know who that is.
There's so many on here that I now recognize. That 1983 was a vibe, man.
1983 was a big year.
Yeah.
And David Bowie was a big part of that year with 3 out of the top 100 in Canada.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, actually. It's the first 3 tracks of the album too, so a very front-loaded album.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
With singles. Which I feel like you can kind of tell that when you're listening to it. But obviously we'll get into that when we're discussing the songs a bit more.
That's right. Okay, so let's figure out what David Bowie was up to in this year. And so David Bowie was in an interesting place in 1983. He hadn't released an album since 1980, and aside from a few movie roles and some single collaborations, he hadn't been in the public eye. Now, there are a few reasons for this. After John Lennon's assassination in December 1980, Bowie had been wary of being in the spotlight as he was allegedly a target of Lennon's murderer too. Bowie also had sole custody of his son and wanted to focus on being a responsible and present father. He wasn't too pleased with his record label, RCA, and was waiting out his contract expiration in 1982. Finally, Bowie's contract troubles with his former manager, Tony DeFries, were finally set to expire as well in late 1982, allowing Bowie to retain his entire earnings on whatever he produced next. So, Bowie spent his time at his residence, Château du Signal, near Lausanne, in Switzerland, painting and raising his son. Bowie's absence from the public view led to pent-up demand for his product, with more bootlegs, books, and fanzines being released to satisfy his audience's curiosity. The time was ripe for a splash. And this splash came to fruition over a glass of orange juice at New York's Continental Club in 1982.
That's very sedate for David Bowie. Orange juice.
I know, he was, well, we'll talk about this a little later. He was still, known to do a little bit of drugs, but he was pretty much sober by this point, at least in terms of drug intake. He was still drinking, but anyway, it was at this trendy club that Bowie met Chic's leader Nile Rodgers. Rodgers was responsible for Chic's biggest hits like Le Freak and Good Times, and had also worked with Diana Ross and on Sister Sledge's We Are Family.
Nice.
But he hadn't had a hit record in a few years by this point, so Rodgers saw Bowie as a way out of his commercial and critical slump. Rodgers had been a fan of Bowie since Hunky Dory, and had taken over Carlos Alomar's role at the Apollo when Alomar joined Bowie's team for Young Americans. The two hit it off immediately, and discussions began about working on Bowie's next album together. And I will stress together in this episode's Telling Lies segment.
Oh, okay. Foreshadowing. Let's go.
Much has been made about Bowie's so-called lack of involvement in the making of Let's Dance, which I think is mainly based on the fact that he only sings on the record and doesn't play any instruments. I think another contributing factor is that he later expressed feeling artistically lost in the 1980s, so these sessions have been lumped into that later reevaluation. In the mid-1980s, Bowie even said,
Let's Dance, I think, really was more Niall's album than mine. It was Niall's vision of what my music should sound like, and I provided the songs.
But here's the thing. As much as the arrangements of the songs are Nile Rodgers, and as much as he was credited with the album's sound by contemporary reviewers, Bowie ultimately had the power. First of all, Rodgers hoped that by working with Bowie, he could enter the art rock world and get out of the dance pop world. Rodgers felt that his race had influenced his sound because he only played what he knew the white mainstream would accept from a black musician. In his autobiography, Rodgers described his reaction to the news that Bowie wanted him to use his signature sound on the album like this.
After all our conversations about freedom and music, I was being ordered back to the hit-making plantation.
Woo.
Yeah.
That's a spicy quote.
That's a statement.
Yeah.
And it clearly establishes the power dynamic of the sessions.
Yeah, like David Bowie doesn't seem to me like a kind of guy who would just be happy to turn over a whole album to someone else, and no matter how much he respects them, like, he's gonna be involved, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I can see him going along with like the idea that the label wants to do or whatever, which feels like Young Americans had some of that, but like this is I can't see him relinquishing it either.
So anyway, prior to the sessions, Bowie spent a considerable amount of time programming Rodgers to arrange the songs in a certain way. Bowie took Rodgers to record shops and to see his friends' record collections, with a focus on R&B and jazz, and the two analyzed the song structures and arrangements. So Bowie may not have had a big role during the production of the album, reportedly spending a great deal of the sessions in the studio lounge while the musicians recorded the backing tracks, but he had a huge role in the album's pre-production. Bowie wanted to change his sound considerably at the time. While holidaying in the South Pacific prior to shooting the film Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, he listened to self-made compilation tapes, which consisted mainly of R&B from the 1950s and 60s. Bowie described his playlists as such.
There was just about nothing representing the last 15 or 20 years. I asked myself, why have I chosen this music? It was very non-uptight music, and it comes from a sense of pleasure and happiness.
In contrast, he described his most recent album's reliance on synthesizers in this way.
I feel it's hard to use synths without preconditioning already there, that kind of me generation icy cold vein. That if you use the synthesizer, it means this particular thing, that I'm part of this angular society.
He even made a dad joke about it.
I've seen so much cool, it's just left me cold.
That's right, folks.
I like that quote. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay, all right. I'm not a big fan of that one, but we are now in dad joke era Bowie. And that's not now Roger's fault, so he can't take the heat for that one. No pun intended, I guess. Oops.
Oh man, does that mean I'm entering my dad era if I found that funny?
I think so. I think
Dad
now
joke
your critical assessment of albums has now been disqualified.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair.
Another key takeaway for Bowie during the filming of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, was director Nagisa Oshima's methods.
Oshima would film very few takes, then send the footage to the editor without reviewing it, letting the editor make the final decisions. It was a fast process, and Bowie was always looking for ways to speed things up in the studio. He used basically Nile Rodgers as the editor for his work, and no filmgoer would claim the editor superseded the director. So why has the myth spread here? Nile Rodgers was content to describe his involvement in Let's Dance as
David had chosen the right tool for the right job.
which, in light of the earlier plantation comment, really is quite problematic. But in lighter terms, author Jérôme Soligny said,
David Bowie played saxophone, guitar, and a bit of piano, but above all, he played musicians.
okay, so let's hope that settles matters on Bowie's less prominent role in the making of the album. Now, I don't want things to be construed in the opposite way either. Nile Rodgers did a lot for this album, and he was hurt that in promotional interviews for the album, Bowie minimized his role. Rodgers, after all, chose the studio, Power Station in New York, and the engineer, Bob Clearmountain, because they were his favorites. Power Station was a power plant that Bob Walters and John Bon Jovi's cousin, Tony Bon Jovi, reclaimed into a music studio. Bon Jovi had unlocked the secrets of Tamla Motown production, which made his studio very desirable. And Bowie had made his previous album, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, here. Rodgers hired the musicians based off of a short list that Bowie gave him. Instead of bringing in Chic's rhythm section, Rodgers went with bassist Carmine Rojas and drummer Omar Hakim, who were more reliable for the fast-paced, no-nonsense production that Bowie was looking for, as he was financing the record himself in the hopes of using it as a bargaining chip for his future record label. Hakim had previously worked with Carly Simon and Weather Report. Rojas, on the other hand, had been talent scouted by Bowie earlier in the decade on the New York club scene and was only hired on a day-to-day basis. Robert Sabino played keyboards on the album and had been featured on all of Chic's hits. Sabino also knew David Spinner and George and Frank Sims, who were hired as the album's backing vocalists. Rodgers hired saxophonist Stan Harrison after Harrison's roommate, a friend of Rodgers, called Rodgers to see if he had any work for Harrison. Though this hiring technique doesn't seem to work well for parents in Facebook community groups today, Rodgers gladly brought Harrison onto the team and even asked him to assemble the horn section, completed by Steve Elson, Robert Aaron, and Mac Golahan. However, it was Bowie who brought lead guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan into the fray after seeing him perform at the Montreux Jazz Festival and an after-hour club jam. While Rodgers was initially reluctant to share guitar duties and felt he couldn't easily direct Vaughan to fit his arrangements, he complied.
Dude, I had no idea he was collaborating with these kind of artists. Like, yeah, Nile Rodgers, super cool. Stevie Ray Vaughan, like
Amazing
that's
guitarist, right?
Yeah, no, this
wow.
is his like big record debut, right? After this, he would gain fame, but
Okay.
this was kind of his launch into that next level of the music world.
Very cool.
And I think he contributes a lot to this album.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
Sure. But we'll get into that when we go song by song.
We will. The two big omissions of the Let's Dance personnel are, of course, Carlos Alomar and Tony Visconti. This record marks the first since 1969's Space Oddity to not have any musicians from the previous album appear on it. Alomar's request for a raise was denied, which sidelined him. In fact, Rodgers claimed the musicians were paid quite meagerly on this album. Visconti was supposed to produce the album and only found out he had been replaced by Rodgers when he phoned Bowie's management to book airplane tickets for the sessions. Visconti was upset that Bowie refused to communicate the news himself.
It seems it seems like maybe there's a pattern here. Like there was a story, I think it was on Young Americans, right? Where there was somebody who was supposed to be coming over from London, and then he found out at the last moment or something that
That's
they're
right.
practically packing their bags and, oh, you're off the job.
It was Visconti. Yeah.
Was that Visconti?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay, well,
Man,
yeah.
so Bowie's done Visconti dirty a couple times, like, and that seems like pattern behavior at this point. If it's happened since the release of Young Americans to now, like that's not a short period of time in between those things happening. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bowie had an unfortunate habit of well, as we know, changing his sound, moving on, but also that sometimes meant just kind of ditching his band, who obviously were kind of relying on him for gigs and stuff. So
kind of a sour note on which to start pre-production.
that's right. However, despite that, the sessions actually went pretty smoothly, with Rogers claiming this was the fastest album he ever worked on and with no drama reported. Things were so jovial that Stevie Ray Vaughan ordered Texas barbecue straight from his home state to be delivered by airplane for the entire personnel, paying for it himself.
So clearly their salaries aren't too bad if he's having like barbecue airlifted in from Texas to New York City.
I guess that's true.
That sounds expensive.
no kidding, early in his career too. That's wild.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good story. The album took just 17 days to record and mix in January 1983, helped by the fact that Rogers was familiar with the studio and the musicians. Sessions began at 10:30 and finished at 6 p.m., following a typical black session schedule, which were less expensive than the late-night sessions white rock music stars were used to using. With Vaughan recording all of his parts in 1 day and Bowie recording his vocals in 2 days, Rogers felt confident enough to test the waters by bringing Tony Thompson, Chic's drummer, and Bernard Edwards, Chic's bassist, in for some overdubbing. In the end, Thompson appeared on 3 songs, Without You, Criminal World, and Cat People, while Edwards was only used on Without You.
I have to say, compared to the Young Americans recording schedule, like this seems like a lot more reasonable. Yeah, like you start at 10:30 a.m., you finish at 6 p.m. You're not up overnight and like finding your best stuff at 3 a.m. on a cocaine fueled binge or whatever.
Yeah, that's a union approved 8 hours.
Yeah, I was
schedule,
gonna
right?
say that's something a union could get behind there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, it's the orange juice, I guess.
That orange juice is helping, I guess. Yeah.
A week after the album was complete, Bowie signed a 5-album deal with EMI for just under $17 million, negotiating the deal mostly on his own. Bowie was now a businessman, very fitting for the 1980s. In interviews, he dismissed his earlier claims of bisexuality, focusing his narrative instead on recovering from substance abuse and becoming a responsible parent. Author David Buckley claims this normal Bowie was the greatest artifice of his career. Bowie also began portraying his 1970s career as that of a cult artist in order to justify wanting to finally make a bit of cash. In reality, Bowie's records sold healthily, but only to the rock demographic.
Like he was definitely somewhat more on the art rock kind of side of things. There's a folk side to his earlier albums, bit of post-punk maybe in the Berlin era. Like cult is an exaggeration, right? I mean, this
like
is
he still had radio success.
this is a guy who made Ziggy Stardust. That was a successful album.
Yeah, like he had UK #1 albums, so it's not like he's completely scraping by. But regardless, when Let's Dance was released in April 1983, he definitely went beyond that rock demographic, as we'll see in the They Say segment.
They say.
Okay, let's start with the good news, shall we? On a commercial front, the album was a runaway hit, with EMI claiming it was their fastest-selling album since Sgt. Pepper in 1967. The album made it to #1 in the UK, though Aladdin Sane, Pinups, and Diamond Dogs had stayed in the top spot a little longer. It made it to #1 in Canada, #1 in Australia, #1 in France, #1 in the Netherlands, #1 in New Zealand, and all across Scandinavia. It made it to #4 in the US.
It impresses me that like it got to #1 in France and like also did really well in Scandinavia, like, you know, countries where English isn't the primary language. Like I can understand all the Commonwealth countries, but like, yeah, it's impressive that it was charting everywhere.
Absolutely. No, this was a global smash, and it outsold most of his 1970 records by a huge margin. In July 1983, Bowie had 10 of his albums in the UK Top 100, a feat that only Elvis had been able to do by dying.
So before we move on, just to get this straight, Pinups was #1 in the UK for longer than Let's Dance.
Yes.
I find that surprising.
Yeah, well, it was...
I guess we'll talk about that when we do Pinups in whatever future season, but to me that was not a huge standout.
No,
well,
I
did you see all the music that was released in 1983, man? That was a killer year.
True.
That's true. Yeah. I think Pinups was riding the Ziggy Mania wave, right? So it came out at the right time. I think as an album, it doesn't maybe deserve that spot. As some other Bowie #1 albums, we'll get to. Chart success isn't always a signifier of longevity. I guess we'll see. Anyway, some of the reviews for the album were beaming, such as the NME, which wrote,
"Powerful, positive music that dances like a dream and makes you feel 10 feet tall. You should be ashamed to say you do not love it."
Billboard declared it,
Bowie's most accessible music in years, state-of-the-art urban dance rock.
which is a subgenre I never knew existed, but...
Yeah, me neither. I like the term, honestly.
However, I was actually surprised to find that there were quite a few negative-leaning reviews when I was researching for this episode. For example, the Beaver County Times, based in Philadelphia, wrote,
"Let's Dance is just too conservative."
And the Winnipeg Free Press shook its finger.
Bowie's theatrical flair for putting other people's ideas to good use doesn't make him a funky white boy. Most of the dynamics and depth here come courtesy of Rogers and other players.
Funky music, white boy. That's like a very
I like
snarky,
that one.
The Medicine Hat News took a lukewarm approach.
An unlikely pairing of the ultra-theatrical Bowie, who tends to wring passion from his vocals, and the usually mindless beat pop that makes for an uncanny and strangely listenable product. Choice cuts include Criminal World, Modern Love, and Shake It.
Which are very interesting choice cuts, in my opinion.
Yeah, no kidding.
The album gets just about as mixed reviews from Bowie's longtime fans, who in some ways lost a sense of ownership to Bowie with its enormous popularity and different mood. However, David Buckley claims that this sense of loss was more the result of Bowie's subsequent 80s albums and not felt so strongly in 1983. For all the claims of selling out that fans made against Bowie, he had said all the way back in 1970 that,
"I throw myself on the mercy of an audience and I really need them to respond to me. If they don't, I'm lost."
look, as a famous singer once said, there's no smoke without fire.
Nice.
Good reference.
Oh yeah. Well, now let's talk about the music, shall we?
Sure, absolutely.
Let's face the music and dance.
The first song on the album is Modern Love. And according to bassist Carmen Rojas, this tribute to Little Richard's sound was the first song recorded during the sessions. The song gets the album going right away, with Bowie explaining,
"The record-buying public of America is still very much in the television format mentality, and it is impossible for them to listen to something that doesn't make its point in the first 30 or 40 seconds.
Hate to see what he'd have to say today.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 now, right?
Well, so do you guys feel this song makes its point in the first 30 to 40 seconds?
Yes.
Oh
It
yeah.
starts right away.
Yeah, it comes in hot and it's the same kind of beat throughout, the same tempo throughout, a very danceable song through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how it opens up with like the plucky guitar and the powerful drums. Like, yeah,
It's just a fantastic
kind of
opening
fun
sound.
start. Yeah, and like super good opening to the album.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Andrew.
No, you're totally right. Like, great drums, great guitar. The Little Richard tribute angle is interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but it does sort of make sense. Like, there's a bit of that call and response thing, which I think is hard to do well. And sometimes young Americans didn't quite nail it, but I think it's done very well here. So absolutely, it's a 10 on 10 banger.
Yeah, so actually some interesting points I have that are related to Young Americans here.
Mm-hmm.
I was really trying to figure out in the lyrics what is exactly is going on, and I came up with this is maybe Bowie's version of Across the Universe. Like, because basically he's saying that nothing's going to change his world, right? There's all these different things going on, and he's trying, but sometimes he's never waves bye-bye, and sometimes but I try, and never going to fall for, and it's just like, nah, I'm not really going to be that affected by all these things,
That's a cool interpretation. Yeah, I can see that.
And then I think it also introduces the album's themes that are kind of like, I would say are like doubt and like ambivalence. And that's maybe a theme I'm not a big fan of on this album. It does seem like a lot of the things are just kind of like, meh, whatever,
Well, there's definitely, I think he's definitely introducing, like, yeah, he's kind of afraid of the church, but he's disenchanted with modernity, right? So he's kind of searching for some third thing, and that's definitely a theme that you'll see throughout. Does that work well with the kind of boppy dance music vibe? I don't know. I think sometimes that contrast can be kind of fun.
Yeah. Now, I also felt that this song, right, doesn't have Cedar Ray Vaughan on it, and the only like instrumental solo is the saxophone. And here I feel like actually the saxophone does replace the electric guitar pretty well as a solo.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, this, it feels like the saxophone was more tastefully used on this album and this track. So, yeah.
I know that's also a criticism that I've made of some Bowie songs where there's too much sax, but I wrote here, sax is balance.
Ooh, there you go.
I think I meant to
there
say
you go.
balanced, but
I like sax and balance. It sounds more like philosophical.
Yeah, it does, right?
that's-
Yeah.
no, I think it's exactly at the right level on this track.
I really have nothing negative to say about this song. Like you guys, I agree. It's a great one to open up the album, and it really just gets you in a great mood immediately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very positive sounding. I was kind of wondering about the lyrics too, trying to make sense of what he's trying to say. I hadn't really drawn a connection to Across the Universe, although I like what you're saying there. I was wondering if he's talking about like modern love, as in like it's more the ability to be a player or to flirt and the power to charm, which is an actual lyric in it, and less so about actual genuine emotion or whatever. And he's saying that love in, I guess, the early 80s or what it's becoming at that time is more of a facade, more of a show, and less of an actual genuine thing. Maybe I'm reading into it too much or trying to find something that isn't there, but I was like, some of the lyrics kind of give me that idea.
Yeah, well, thankfully that has all changed now. We've passed that disappointing era for love, and now it's
definitely.
just genuine and beautiful.
It's all
Absolutely.
genuine. Yeah, Tinder really brought that back.
I wonder if there's ever been a period in history where people haven't been hand-wringing over, like, oh, you know, what modernity's done to relationships and blah, blah, blah. Like,
Well, what about chivalrous poetry?
well, I can't say I know enough about that era to really say, but isn't the chivalric movement a reaction to the idea that we need to make ourselves better?
Perhaps.
Because we're not behaving the way men should. I mean, that's kind of it's like a universal theme.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
could be onto something there. Yeah.
He's going across the universal themes here on the song.
Hey, there you go. Nice.
Okay, next song is China Girl.
And when I get excited, my little China girl says, oh baby, just you shut your mouth. She says,
Now,
Oh,
this
boy.
song, this song was originally a number on Iggy Pop's Bowie-produced The Idiot album back in 1977. Iggy wrote the lyrics, while Bowie composed the music, which originally was known as Borderline. French musician Jacques Higelin and his girlfriend Cullen Wynne and their son were staying at the same residential studio as Bowie and Iggy. Iggy's original lyrics were more geopolitical, but once he began an affair with Wynne, the song becomes
A very blundering, blustering rock and roll hero who has big plans and Western habits, who becomes enchanted and subdued by a Chinese girl.
At one point, Wynne did in fact ask Iggy to shut his mouth about the affair, though that didn't stop her from attending the recording of the song, where Bowie recorded his parts on his son's toy piano and drums. The drums were later overdubbed by Michel Santangeli on a proper drum kit. Bowie also played saxophone, keyboards, and guitar on the song. Now, don't get too blinded by the child instruments, though, because Nile Rodgers, in his eyes, the song could also be about speedballing, which is when you combine coke and heroin, as China White is a euphemism for heroin, and girl stands for coke. Bowie and Iggy were obviously still using heavily when recording The Idiot, and Bowie was still infrequently using cocaine in the early 80s as well. Ever since recording The Idiot, Bowie had wanted to record his own version of the song and convinced Rodgers that it could be a hit, though Rodgers thought the Iggy version was overproduced. When Rodgers stumbled upon the Asian-sounding riff, he knew he had the perfect hook for the song, though he was extremely nervous that Bowie would fire him for being too cliché. Rodgers said this about the song.
God, it's damn good to be white. You can write an esoteric song with hidden meanings, whereas in black music, if you have a song called China Girl, it had better convey some message about a girl you met in China or something. It has to be a lot more literal. It better sound Asian.
There's a lot to unpack in that quote. There's a lot to unpack.
Do you wanna unpack it?
I mean, Roger's clearly has some strong views about stuff, right?
Absolutely,
This is not the first spicy quote.
Yeah, actually, it was really refreshing reading his autobiography and like, yeah, just seeing like how much he brought up race. Like it was actually interesting and quite relatable to what we're seeing today, right?
Yeah, I think it is actually an interesting introspective quote, even if it comes across a little brash. Like it's like, yeah, there's definitely stereotypes and expectations placed on different races, skin colors of people who are in the musical industry, expectations of what they can make or what the context of who they are as a person applies to their music. So yeah, interesting that he's actually thinking about that when talking about this album.
Mm-hmm. And just quickly, China Girl was engineer Bob Clearmountain's favorite track from the sessions and was originally going to be the album's lead single. Iggy Pop was less keen on the Asian riff, but otherwise liked the version as well as the tracks Modern Love and Criminal World. So, should we start off by talking about the Iggy Pop version first?
I'll give you television. I'll give you eyes of blue. I'll give you a man who wanna rule the world.
Very cool. I had no idea that this was a cover until we were doing this episode, and it's pretty neat to also know that Bowie actually played quite a few of the instruments, or at least composed quite a few of the parts of the song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's all over this track.
I thought it still sounded like a toy piano, even if I know they re-recorded that part.
Well, they re-recorded the drums, but I think the toy piano is still
the
original.
See. Yeah, I don't love the piano part on this. I mean, it definitely feels more like a punk song, right?
Yeah.
Like a 70s song than an 80s song, but that's, I guess, what you'd expect. Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with the pop version, but yeah, it's good for what it is. I mean, they're pretty different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I feel like it feels a lot more abstract and a bit more chaotic compared
certainly.
to Bowie's. Bowie's is like a lot more like tighter and refined,
Yeah.
I didn't realize he wrote it about an affair with someone who I guess is Asian, although I'm assuming Nguyen, that's not a Chinese
No,
name,
I would say that's Vietnamese, right?
He's kind of like, it's a bit of an abstraction,
Yeah.
Asian, Chinese, whatever. But that's an interesting angle for sure, right? On the whole, be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool elaboration. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, I really actually, I guess my opinion differs slightly from Andrew's. I prefer the instrumentation on the Iggy version to the Nile Rodgers Bowie version, because I kind of agree with Iggy. I feel like that Asian riff is just a little too tacky.
It's cheesy, man. That's the part of the song that actually keeps me from really loving it, Yeah. I feel like it's too hokey.
Yeah.
I get why they did it, sure, but it's not my cup of tea, that particular part of the track.
Yeah.
I really like the song, but that's a fair criticism, yeah.
And we'll get to a live version that Bowie did later in his career next season that kind of has more of the Iggy sound to it. And that's my preferred actual version of China Girl, so hopefully you guys will like it as well.
I'm used to Iggy Pop and the Stooges and stuff like that. It's interesting because like the vocals for this Iggy, they remind me a lot of Bowie, except they are telltale like Iggy does, a bit less clear, a bit more mumbly almost, whereas Bowie is very clear and robust,
Yeah, I really love like when Iggy Pop does the line like in the white of my eyes, and like there's just that real snarl that's going on, and like you can hear him like peeking in the microphone, like it's like it's poorly recorded or whatever. Like you can tell that they should have lowered the level of the mic before he did that.
Yeah, but in a lot of music, I really enjoy those little imperfections. It kind of gives it a special flavor,
Absolutely, yeah. I'll just quickly say, just because we're always talking about alternate mixes and stuff like that on our You've Been Around episodes. I'll just quickly mention that the Iggy Pop China Girl also has a few different versions hanging around there. There's an alt mix, which basically there's a guitar overdub mixing that's missing towards the end, and the fade out is terrible because it just is slowly fading out, and then all of a sudden just it stops. And there's just so I'm assuming that was maybe an early mix or something like that they needed to fix. And then the Iggy version was also released as a single back in 1977. It did not chart anywhere, and all they did there is they cut out the first instrumental break, and the instrumental outro is cut down, and they get rid of the guitar solo there. So anyway, that covers the Iggy version. Let's get to the actual Let's Dance version of the song. What do you guys got to say about this one?
Again, a very danceable beat, like super fun song. Trademark low, sultry baritone vocals from Bowie, growing more hysterical and kind of shouting later in the track, which is always fun. I love those kind of lyrics or vocalization from Bowie. So yeah, I enjoyed this track a lot. Although there is the instrumentation and then also like the general theme of it are a little cringe to me. But and we're not even touching on the music video yet, which
we'll get to
there's more to talk about with that.
I mean, I think the point about the vocals is good. I noticed that throughout the album, but if you listen to it in order, I think it's more evident on China Girl than Modern Love. Like, his voice is recovered quite a lot. I think we talked... I mean, okay, I don't want to be too critical because even when his voice was maybe affected a bit by the overuse of drugs, like in the 70s, I mean, he was not a bad vocalist, and certainly sings a lot better than I ever will. Drugs are none, but it's better here, I think.
Okay. Which
maybe is due to the... I mean, it's not totally sober, right? But he's using a lot less. Or maybe it's just, I don't know, a few years have passed and he's worked on his... he's developed a bit more, but either way, the vocals I thought is fantastic.
Okay, I agree. Obviously, that I prefer Bowie's vocals to like Iggy's vocals in general, even though Iggy's have a flavor to them. But for me, the highlight of the song is still the lyrics that are Iggy's, because I really like how it starts off where. It seems like in the first verse he's just talking about like how like why is his partner not there in the morning, and it just seems like okay, this is just like a loving person, and then like we get deeper and deeper into his psyche as the song goes on, and we really find out this is a really problematic person, and this they have some really dangerous ideas, and I just love like just the little kind of hints at like Western civilization that like. Like when he just mentions like television and eyes of blue, like these things that like, could be innocent but also have this propagandic kind of history.
Well, especially after that comes like the I stumble into towns, visions of swastikas in my head, plans for everyone. It's like there's some very provocative kind of ideas and lyrics going on in this song,
and I just love that song was a radio hit in 1980. Like, just like I feel like how many songs have the swastikas in it that are not like promoting a bad ideology?
Well, those songs typically don't make it to the radio, so it's impressive that this actually was received really well.
Yeah, like he wrote a song about a fascist that is not a fascist song at all, right? Yeah. But I think that's a talented, well, he in being Iggy, but like that's a fine line. He walked it quite well. I do appreciate that, the end, he comes home, he's very nervous and highly strung, and his girlfriend or mistress or whatever is just calms him down, brings him back down to earth. Like, we can all probably relate to that in our relationships in some way, right? So, I agree. Like, the writing on here is strong.
Yeah, and I always heard the lyric "white of my eyes" as "white of my lies," which I never really understood what it meant, but I always thought it was a lot more interesting than "the white of my eyes." So I kind of wish that that was the lyric, but oh well.
Yeah, no kidding.
The dangers of looking up the lyrics.
Missed opportunity. Yeah, right. I am bad for that. I mishear lyrics all the time.
Yeah, but I think it just makes it so much more interesting. It's like when you see shadows in the dark or whatever, and you make up all these interesting stories. Next is the big single from the album, Let's Dance, although all the singles were pretty big. But anyway.
My love for you would break my heart in two if you should fall into my arms, tremble like a flower.
Bowie first introduced Nile Rodgers to Let's Dance at his home in Switzerland, as the two were in the early stages of planning the album. Rodgers described the acoustic version Bowie played live for him as Donovan meets Anthony Newley, though Bowie was convinced it could be a hit. The arrangement Rodgers came up with quickly eschewed the Donovan and Anthony Newley references and instead took inspiration from Twist and Shout after they had a discussion comparing the Beatles version and the Isley Brothers version, and including the Peter Gunn soundtrack into the discussion as well.
That's really interesting because I was actually watching a music video to prepare for this, and my wife walked in just at that beginning part. She's like, "Oh, it's the Beatles."
Yeah, yeah, they completely ripped them off here. For sure.
Like so she picked up on that right away.
Yeah, but then it goes into like the rest of the song feels like it's very dance floor, almost like disco influenced, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah, you got the influence from the Beatles, and then you got the influence from dance music at the time.
Yeah, and actually getting back to what you're saying about the disco, Nile Rodgers wanted to include a breakdown of the instruments in the song because he'd seen when he was playing live with Chic how popular that breakdown was live. Like, it just really got the audience going. And all these influences proved that at this point, Bowie was no longer looking to the fringes for inspiration, but rather the mainstream, right? Mm-hmm. Percussionist Sammy Figueroa came up with his part over lunch break, much to Bowie's delight, and the horn section overdubbed their part on Bowie's 36th birthday, during which a breakdancing troupe was invited to the studio as a birthday present from Bowie's assistant, Coco Schwab. Though the breakdancers have long been forgotten, the song has not, as it was Bowie's first simultaneous #1 in the UK and the US when it was released as the album's lead single.
You know what? Stevie Ray Vaughan, fantastic guitar on here. It's so funky. I love it. It just makes you want to get up and dance. We did dance to this yesterday, actually, my wife and I.
Oh,
and
so cute.
Nice.
You know, like it keeps that little bit of that Bowie kind of vulnerability, tremble like a flower.
Yeah.
This love would break your heart, but like it just makes you want to get up and move. And it's a great song. I think it gets a little messy at the end. They could have. Was there a radio edit?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We'll cover that in the next episode.
Very good. Okay, well, we won't get ahead of ourselves there, but it could have. I think it maybe could have benefited from a little bit of tightening, but I'm not going to complain too much. I mean, it's so much fun.
Yeah, you were still dancing at the end of it, or you sat down at that point?
I already was starting to fade a little bit at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, I'm just realizing now this is a 7.5-minute song. So, like, I'm sure the radio version was like a lot shorter, like the official video.
10, yeah.
But like this is a long song. I could see it like being a real vibe on the dance floor. But you know, the DJ might want to switch it up sooner than it ends. You know.
I think, you know, going back, Andrew, to what you're saying about, like, you know, there's that vulnerability in there. I feel like it actually kind of fits, like, you know, that kind of a classic love song, dance song trope, where, like, you know, you're talking about love, but there's also this kind of danger lurking in the background. So like songs like Summertime Sadness or like EXO by Beyonce, even like We Are Young by Fun, like, you know, it's uplifting, but you know, there's just this little bit of menace that you can just kind of feel there, you know. So I think Bowie does a good job with that type of song here.
Something to do with the serious Moonlight, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it comes in.
Yeah, what do you guys think of actually one of the lyrics, "Fall into my arms and tremble like a flower"? Is that like a kind of, are you imagining kind of like me, like the kind of dancing they're doing and the more natural kind of feelings they're feeling? I don't know.
I took it as very figurative, like it's not a literal, like it's not a dance move. I don't know exactly what that would be on a dance floor, but
yeah, no, I'm kind of just thinking like it.
He's vulnerable in the hands of his lover, right?
Yeah.
And like there's a certain amount of fear in making yourself vulnerable in that way, right? Like you're very much dependent upon or at the mercy of the other person emotionally. So that's how I took that. I don't think he's literally trembling. Well, maybe he is. I mean, a lot of this stuff can stand more than one interpretation, right?
Exactly.
And that's often what makes art interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like some of the other lyrics too, like sway through the crowd to an empty space. Like you kind of just imagine yourself in a dance club and you're just, yeah,
Absolutely.
you're
There you
making your
can.
way through
Yeah.
the crowd to the empty space in the middle of the dance floor. You know,
Okay.
I get like, you know, the kind of scene that you have in like Pulp Fiction, where they move to the middle of the dance floor and they're jamming out or whatever. That
Interesting.
kind of thing.
'Cause, yeah, the way I read that was like you found your partner, you want to have just a little bit of time to yourself, so you're actually like going to an empty space outside of the dance floor, just have a
Oh,
little
very opposite
one-on-one.
from what
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
thinking.
exactly. Yeah. So it can stand up to multiple interpretations.
Totally.
Yeah. Also, would you guys agree with me that the woodblock instrumentation and the trumpet are very fun?
I was gonna say I have it in my notes here. The trumpet is fun. It actually says that exact word. And then I have that there's like a squawking horn solo towards the end of the
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
I said delightful. But I also the percussion is a highlight for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if woodblock is actually the actual instrument. I think there's
Yeah.
actually a term for what
Some
it is,
type of
but-
percussion, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering. I wrote down what kind of drum is this because I was searching for like I couldn't quite picture where that sound was coming from.
Yeah.
Whatever it is fun. I agree.
Yeah. The next song and the final song on side 1 of the album is Without You.
I look into your eyes. There's no smoke without fire. You're exactly who I want to be. Without you.
In the common perception of this album, the rest of Let's Dance is kind of a slump, and this song, Without You, is the beginning of that slump. However, this song does have a value, as it might be a tribute to Bowie's assistant Coco, or Corinne Schwab. Schwab was the daughter of photographer Eric Schwab, who incidentally took dysenteric dying, which Bowie later selected as the most representative photograph of the 20th century. This photograph is of a liberated Holocaust survivor dying of dysentery just hours after having been freed from Buchenwald. You can imagine the story it tells. Coco Schwab was planning a bus tour across the US with her friend in 1973, but needed some extra cash to finance the trip, which they were planning on turning into a travelogue. Schwab found a job with Main Man as a receptionist and finally met Bowie in England in May 1973. She had saved up enough money for her trip by early 1974, but Bowie begged her to travel to the US with him instead in his limo during the Diamond Dogs tour. She became Bowie's lifelong friend and is credited with saving his life at least a couple times during the height of his cocaine abuse. This song is also noteworthy for being, as mentioned earlier, the only one with the core chic lineup on it, Rogers, Edwards, and Thompson. Edwards recorded his bass in just one take, though Rojas had struggled to get it right in earlier takes. It was released in the US, the Netherlands, Japan, and Spain in November 1983 as the album's final single.
I agree it's not a standout, but it's a nice little piece. I think it's a nice little palate cleanser at the end of
Oh,
like
palate
a
cleanser,
very energetic, driving first half. And if you're just taking the rhythm down a little bit at the end of the first side, I don't think that's terrible. I mean, am I going to be putting it on my personal compilation album or whatever? Probably not, but he's probably produced worse
Yes.
in his career,
Yeah,
so I don't
I
want
would
to be
say,
too harsh here. Like, I think I don't mind it.
I have to agree. It really feels like the kind of way I was interpreting it as an actual feeling of the song is, yeah, it's like bringing the tempo and energy down to a more mellow level. And if I think of the song or the album rather as a dance party, like if this was a track list at a dance party, it's like, yeah, after 3 high energy songs like that, you need something to kind of bring the tempo down a bit, give people a chance to catch their breath. And this feels like a perfect kind of song to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a more eloquent way of saying what I was trying to say earlier. So I appreciate your eloquence.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like the flaw for me on this song, well, there's two. The first one is I feel like there are a lot of instrumental breaks on the song that don't vary much from each instrumental break. Like it just feels like we're just kind of in a loop.
Yeah,
And I
that's
feel
true.
like we could make it a little more interesting, especially since we have the band Chic here. Like, you guys can do better than this, you know? The other thing is there's a lyric on here where there's literally, "Woman, I love you," which is like so, like for Bowie, like what a cheap lyric. Like that is
a
so.
little
I could see you
Yeah.
disliking that one. Yeah, it really does sound like a very, I don't know, at face value, it sounds like a love song asking what would I do without you.
Yeah.
No smoke without fire, as in the spark of love is there, so the flame of love is also there, or whatever, something like that. Is kind of where my head was going when listening to it.
Yeah, but okay, well, I'm glad to know that you guys don't absolutely trash the song. And like, I agree. Like, it's got a vibe to it. It's kind of nice. But like, if you dig in deeper, there's really not much there. So
No, not really.
yeah, it's like the ground in the tundra. There's you can't go very far. Okay, we flipped the song. We flipped the side to side 2 of the album, and we have Ricochet.
Sound of thunder, sound of gold, sound of the devil breaking parole. Ricochet, ricochet.
This song was originally called Shame, Shame, It's Not the End of the World, in parentheses. Rogers adored the freedom that Bowie's white privilege allowed him in inserting jazz inflections and Afrobeat into this track, while Bowie adored the song, but didn't like Rogers' beat, calling it an ungainly gait. This was the only track that Rogers scored for the horn section, leaving them to come up with their own parts on the other songs. Tony Visconti is on the record as a fan of the song, as well as Modern Love, but EMI may have felt differently since it is the only song in Let's Dance not to be featured as an A-side or a B-side. But what do you guys think?
I thought it was a bit of a jarring start for the second half of like a dance pop album. I might sort of agree with EMI on that. It wasn't really a standout to me. I do like the lyrics.
Mm-hmm. I think the lyrics are probably the most interesting on the album.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe the lyrics made me think.
Weed needing to be beat down, and we're turning the holy pictures away, right? Like, he's picking up on a lot of those themes from Modern Love in maybe like even a bit more direct way. I'm not coming back to this, to be honest.
Oh, too bad. I love this song.
No, just from a musical perspective, right?
I like the music too. But actually, going back, you were earlier saying, you had a lovely moment with your wife on the song Let's Dance. I have a good story. Well, it's not that good of a story, but a funny memory of this song with my wife. I was listening to it while doing dishes, and I had this going, and she was like, "What the heck is this song?" During the first half of the album, she had no questions about it. It just was pleasant background music. But this was like this alerted her to some other things, which I that's what I like about the song. It is quite different. It is odd.
Yeah, it's a bit of a standout in its sound compared to the rest of it. I think you're right in what you said, Andrew. It is a little jarring. It feels abstract. I'm not saying those necessarily as negative things, and I think in albums there needs to be kind of a refresher, something to break the flow of things at times. So I don't dislike it, although it is very unique on the album. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love like the little spoken voices that there is, like when he's saying dreaming of tram lines, factories, pieces of machinery, mine shafts, things like that. Like it's just, I don't know, it's a fun little voiceover that he does there.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Like, are those voiceovers of Bowie himself?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering if they were like
voices.
News clippings or something.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I find like again like I think the lyrics are really good. I think it's like maybe a takedown of capitalism or something. And I really find the final couplet to be quite heartbreaking. When he says, "They get home, damp-eyed and weary. They smile and crush their children to their heaving chests, making unfulfillable promises for who can bear to be forgotten." And it's just like, oh, like you're thinking about like the proletariat, and it just
that's pretty poetic lyrics there, I would say. And yeah, like you say, kind of interesting maybe commentary on capitalism there. Kind of reminded me some of the lyrics of like maybe some of the trade-offs humanity has done, like exploiting nature and working really hard and disregarding the natural world in order to make a more artificial living or something like that. Like
this really could have been the theme song for Canada's Green Party when they launched in 1983.
There you go. Yeah, maybe picking a more popular song would have got them a little farther. Maybe that's what
pick an A-side next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a pretty neat song.
For me, this is the one song that Stevie Ray Vaughan appears on that I feel like is not really necessary. Like, I feel like there's like a very unfitting guitar solo that comes in like in the last 30 seconds of the song. It's like, that could have just faded out earlier. We didn't need that. I don't know. It felt a little unnecessary, I would say.
I mean, I like the guitar solo, but that's fair.
Oh, okay.
That's fair. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's super necessary.
And then actually on that note, I think maybe one of the problems this album has is it seems to rely a lot on like long instrumental outros. This song has one as well. It's like we probably could have cut 30, 45 seconds at the end of the song, tightened it up a little bit. But so the next song.
You caught me kneeling at your sister's door. That was no ordinary stick. I'm well aware just what you're looking for. I am no ordinary.
Criminal World was originally a song recorded by the group Metro in 1976, and it was interestingly banned by the BBC for having bisexual overtones, which I think is quite interesting because I would say like songs like Rebel Rebel, for example, have a lot more of those overtones, and I don't think they were banned by the BBC, so I'm not sure exactly what was so problematic about this song in 1976, but regardless.
Well, they're saying like girls look like boys and boys look like girls or something like that, or baby face. I guess I hadn't thought of it until you said that they had a problem with it. So
I know. Well, exactly, because like those are basically the lyrics to Rebel Rebel too.
The Metro version is much more like bisexual or kind of cross-dressing, like even like undertones is not even the right word because I think it's pretty explicit. The Bowie version, well, turns that down somewhat.
Yeah, he did rewrite some of the lyrics, yeah. So, kind of like China Girl, this song has like a little bit of a heavier meaning masked beneath its kind of surface sheen.
We talked in the Ziggy Stardust episode about Bowie's role as kind of a gay icon in that period, or perhaps not a gay icon, depending on your perspective on that whole issue. Mm-hmm. And how in the 80s he's kind of walking that back. One thing we did not mention at the beginning of the episode, but is relevant, is 83 is really the AIDS epidemic is taking off. Yeah. And I do wonder whether like the decision to take a kind of very bi or cross-dressing song in the original Criminal World, and like I don't think it's entirely gone, but it's much more subtle. You wouldn't really notice it probably in the Bowie version if it wasn't pointed out to you or if you weren't looking for it. It reflects where Bowie's at as an artist, but it also reflects kind of the cultural moment of the early 80s where there's almost a resurgent homophobia perhaps at that period. So
yes, yeah.
It's unfortunate maybe in retrospect, but reflects the times, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
So what did you guys think of the Metro version?
Saw you kneeling at my brother's door. That was no ordinary stick. I'm well aware just what you're looking for. I am no ordinary.
It's much more laid back than Bowie's, except near the end. It gets into that guitar breakdown, which is a pretty cool element and tempo change from the rest of the song. It also feels very sinister compared to Bowie's version, which was kind of cool. Although Bowie's, I guess, has some sinister tone to it as well. Oh, I thought it was cool.
The words I chose were sultry and otherworldly. So it's definitely quite a different feeling than I got from the Bowie version. I thought the Bowie version was better, to be honest. Metro, it's interesting. I hadn't heard of them at all. They had 3 albums in the late 70s. This is what they're mostly known for now, I think, from what I can gather. And I don't know how I would feel about the one thing that I'm known for being that somebody else made a better version of my biggest song, you know? Like,
oh man, like, I mean, there's so many artists like that, though.
I know,
so
like imitation is a sincere form of flattery, and
yeah,
I think it would be a bit difficult to deal with.
Also, just going back to your comment, Aaron, about how this is and China Girl are the 2 songs on this album that have kind of deeper meaning to the lyrics. And neither of them are Bowie's. They're like
It's true.
covers
Yeah,
that he did. He
Yeah.
might have tweaked them a little bit and changed the odd thing, but like, yeah, it's interesting that the rest of the songs on this album, more or less pop songs, you know, these
Yeah.
are the more deep kind of lyrically deep songs. Yeah. Although Ricochet
That's
definitely
true.
has some
That's true.
lyrical
Yeah.
depth to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I found the Metro version, like what I would say about it is it is so 70s. Like I feel like just all the sounds you hear. Whereas I feel like Bowie's version, because it doesn't like meander as much, like there's just like those long instrumental breaks that just kind of come out of nowhere that completely go away from like the main melody of the song. Whereas Bowie's version, I feel like is more focused. It's just like, it's, you know, this is the riff. We're sticking with this. And so
Yeah.
to me, it feels more timeless, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say like this, just like I kind of thought with China Girl is, it feels like tighter and more refined. Like Bowie
Yeah.
brought it into a super high production studio format, you know, and had the added advantage of like reimagining the song that way. But like, it's definitely a more refined sound, I'd say, when Bowie does it.
Yeah, and 7 years have passed, right? So it definitely reflects that.
Yeah.
Totally.
If we're talking about Bowie's version, I think that his vocal here is better than it was on Without You, which I think is like the same kind of vocal style, that kind of like soft falsetto. So I think, he does it better here. I also think this song is extremely catchy. And for me, it is one of the album highlights. Definitely, if I had to choose like a deep cut from this album, this would be the one I would lean towards. And I actually always thought the lyric "baby-faced girls" was always "baby-faced whores," which I thought was even more interesting. but-
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a weird. Yeah, hadn't thought of it that way. I definitely heard the lyric as it should be. So
I think that the Bowie version of this, like, might have be the first Bowie song that I kind of remember hearing. Like, I probably heard other songs before and they didn't quite hook, but there was something about this one that was just infectious, and I was like, oh, I want to, hear more from this guy. And I wouldn't say it was my favorite of his songs by any means, but there was just something about it that kind of drew me in. So it's I know that's not like most people would probably, like, the three big songs that the album starts with would have been that hook for most new fans. But yeah, for some reason for me it was this one, so I kind of have fond memories of it for that reason. It's, I don't know, is it right to say it's underrated? I mean, I don't know if this song gets enough acclaim. I really like it.
yeah, I think you're right, Aaron, in saying that it's probably the best of the deep cuts from this album, or best of the B-sides. Feels that way to me.
I also got to shout out quickly that little like keyboard swell sound, that little that comes up every once in a while. Love that. Whenever that comes
I love
in,
it.
oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
I was gonna say I couldn't put my finger on it, but that's it. I really do like that little addition to the instruments.
Okay, the next song, Cat People Putting Out Fire.
You've been so long. Well, it's been so long. I've been putting out fire with gasoline. Putting out fire with gasoline.
We will talk about the original version that Bowie recorded in 1982 in the next episode. For now, we'll just stick to the Let's Dance version, but I'll just quickly tell you a few things, and we'll do like more of the history of that version in the next episode as well. But for now, all I will say is that there are two different kind of stories about this version being on the album. The first one is that apparently Bowie wanted to re-record the song because he found the original was too slow. The other story goes that he actually wanted the original version he recorded with Giorgio Moroder on Let's Dance, but because of licensing issues, he couldn't get the rights to that version, so he was forced to re-record it. I don't know which one is true, but both of those stories are out there and they exist, so you can pick your adventure.
That's interesting. I always wondered why he re-recorded it, because the time gap isn't huge, and I honestly I liked the original one better.
Me too.
Without getting too much into it. It's just got an amazing Jim Morrison kind of feel to it, which I really love. I think that's less present. Like, not that the re-recorded version is bad by any means, but I think the original was better. I have to say, I'd kind of forgotten about this song, and then a few days ago, as I was prepping, came back to it and was like, oh my god, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it just somehow slipped through the cracks of my own sort of recollection of this album. Like, I think I'd forgotten it was on this album completely.
Oh, you just got too into Criminal World is the problem.
I guess so.
You just couldn't look past it.
Yeah. No, it is a great track, but yeah, for some reason doesn't like stick in the memory as much as something like Criminal World. I do like how all the music drops out as he pauses before he says with gasoline, like putting out fires, pause with gasoline. It's just so powerful. It just feels great.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a nice up-tempo number. I like the guitar on the song, and the percussion again is quite delightful. Yeah, and I guess like lyrically, I guess it kind of there's a little bit of a theme going on the B side of the album with some kind of looking at the darker side of society. You know, obviously Criminal World. We're looking at kind of some kind of kinky underworld. Ricochet, we're looking at some working class issues, and then here we're dealing with another kind of psychotic character in the vein of the protagonist of China Girl. So, and
with this song, I think we're getting back to the very danceable feeling of this album.
Yes,
like I could see myself dancing to this song for sure. It's a jam. It's got good energy. Yeah, it feels good for dancing.
Yeah, more so than the original version, I will say. Has anyone here seen the movie Cat People?
No. Let's get together and watch it.
We'll watch it before the next episode.
Let's watch it right now.
Okay.
Cat People, I'm looking this up.
I make sure you're looking at the 1982 version, because it was originally a 1942 horror film, I think.
We will circle back to that next month with our takes on the film, maybe.
yeah. If you want to watch it, go ahead. I'm not watching it.
Wait, which version am I supposed to?
The 82 version.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, it says it's like a supernatural horror or something.
Well, what's the rating on Rotten Tomatoes?
Well, I'm on IMDb right now. It says 6.2 out of 10. I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes has for it. Oh, 65%.
Okay, not bad, actually.
No, for Rotten Tomatoes, that's okay, right?
Oh,
it's not a standout,
sure.
but,
Well, the last song on the album is Shake It.
Duck and I sway. What's my life? I shoot at a full moon. What's my life? So what's my line? Shake it, baby. Shake it. Ooh.
This is a rare note of optimism to end a Bowie record, and I was thinking about it, and I feel like Memory of a Fear Festival on Space Oddity is the only other album that has this kind of upbeatness to it, like typical Bowie closer, the Rock and Roll Suicide. If you're looking at Diamond Dogs, like the Chant of the Ever Circling Skeletal Family, which is just like a terrifying sonic adventure. Even Fame, it just talks about being abused and the downside of being famous. But here, things seem to be looking up. For all the backing vocals on the album, Bowie and Rogers had the backing vocalists come into the studio and just listen to the backing track, and then they kind of came up with the parts on their own, and Bowie apparently thought this was one of the better parts that they came up with on the album. He's really enthralled with it. As I said, this is where the album ends, apparently, because Rogers and Bowie wanted to make sure the album had really good sound quality. And the way to do that, obviously, is to make sure you don't have too much on either side of the album. Keep it kind of short so that the grooves are a little thicker, and then you can have just better sound quality. I don't know if I buy that too much, but
I have heard that before in the context of discussions on other records. Like, that's a restriction when you're dealing with physical
for
medium,
sure.
right?
Scientifically, I think that's true. I don't know if that was really the motivation for keeping the album short here. I don't know, because it seems like maybe Bowie's going through a little bit of a creative drought here. But
well, I mean, that could be. If they really wanted to fit another song on here, like a lot of these tracks are really long.
Yeah, exactly.
They probably could have found a way to do it.
And again, they're really long with not a lot of lyrics. Like it is a lot of instrumental.
True.
Anyway, let's just talk about Shake It. We'll focus.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the lyrics are kind of simple in this one. It feels like To me, he's talking about like, you know, dancing and flirting through dancing and then like maybe not really knowing what to say like verbally in this flirt, you know. Shake it, what's my line, like what do I say next or whatever, you know.
And see, to me, I feel like that is almost like it's like almost a meta commentary that like I don't have anything to say on this album, really, you know. So
maybe, yeah. No kidding. Wow.
Either that, or if I'm being generous, I could say maybe the whole song is just like a spoof of bubblegum pop, like because like he's talking about like a faceless girl. As you said, what's my line? Wondering what to do, feeling disconnected. You're better than money. You know, there's not a whole lot of depth here.
No, not really. Also, I'd like to point out the synths in this are incredibly 80s.
I found them very annoying.
Okay.
It is so synthy. Yeah, I can't say I really enjoy them either. Although for like the actual, I don't know, there's a hokiness that I enjoy about 80s synths, and this is definitely it, but it's not something I enjoy genuinely, I guess.
Okay, but this song is catchy though, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
I like 80s music. I mean, we were talking about that earlier. There's a lot of stuff from the 80s that I still listen to. But yeah, I found the synth here a little annoying. I was a little disappointed in this track as a closing track. Did either of you hear a flute on this?
No.
Oh.
So I didn't either, but according to YouTube, in the credits, somebody played flute on this. This is from the official David Bowie YouTube
Cool,
page.
actually,
unless would that be for the album?
Oh,
or is this?
Yeah, I guess you have to look at another song on that and see if it's similar.
Pop Modern Love. I don't think there was a flute on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be a fluteless track.
Oh, it's still there. Okay, well maybe these are the credits for the album. Okay, well, sorry, that's a little red herring then.
Yeah, this tells you what the quality of the song is if we're talking about things that aren't on the song.
They use the flute.
We're trying to read into it more than we should. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
As we said, I really like this album. I'm going to defend this from a lot of the fans who might say he sold out and it was too commercial and blah, blah, blah. But it's a disappointing way on which to end the record.
Yeah. I think that kind of leads us into our overall thoughts on the album.
Yeah. I mean, like, I love this album. It's just got a really good dancey feel to it throughout. Like, the energy is excellent. The opening is excellent. Shake It's a bit of a weird closer. I have to agree with that. Generally speaking, this thing's an absolute masterpiece.
Oh, wow. Oof.
So it's definitely true that the first three songs is like in some ways carrying this album. If you just looked at the back half, you'd go, okay, I think Criminal World is good. Cat People's kind of, if you're in the right mood, like it's not a dance, super dancey track, but it's not bad. But then you got two kind of disappointing.
Hey, don't you knock Ricochet
pieces, I would say. So the first half is certainly where the strength is on this album.
I have to agree. Maybe using the word masterpiece and from what I said is a bit of a strong term, but I do really like it. I think it's
and I think at the end of the day, like what matters is how a song or an album or whatever makes you feel. And when I listen to this album, like I want to get up and dance, right? Like I really do feel that. And I know that from an artistic standpoint, it's not Ziggy, it's not the Bohn trilogy, it's not even maybe like Heathen or something like that from the later era, but man, that music is just so good. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. Yeah, it's a mixed bag for me because I think if I kind of like shut my brain off a little bit, I think it is definitely like very enjoyable music. There's nothing I actively hate on the album, but like when I'm doing an episode like this and I'm really trying to think like, what's the meaning, I'm not really finding a whole lot of wealth there. It is just a little kind of disappointing, and it'll be interesting to see once we get to his other 80s albums that are continually placed at the bottom of ranking lists. I think I'm gonna be enjoying them more than Let's Dance.
Is that so? So that's opposite of many of the sort of commentators out there who would say like the 80s wasn't a great period, but this is the best of the worst, I think, for a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm just being contrarian. I don't know.
We'll see.
So I'll have to really.
It's fun to be revisionist sometimes.
Yeah.
about these
Yeah.
things.
Okay, let's move on to album visuals.
Your record sleeves are better than your songs.
On the cover art, we have Bowie boxing, which is a passion of his that started with the Diamond Dogs tour and that he
Really
continued doing for a long time. So he's not just playing it here. It actually was part of his fitness routine for a long time.
Wow, I didn't realize he was into boxing.
Yeah.
That's so there's actual. It wasn't just thought up as this is a cool kind of stunt we could do for this. It actually has a personal relation. He has a personal relationship with boxing.
Exactly, and actually, now that you're saying that, it makes me think, maybe this is as I was saying, he's really promoting himself as like being a lot healthier at this point in his life. So maybe this is like him kind of showing that, like, yeah, I'm in good shape. I feel good about myself. I don't need to hide behind makeup or artifice anymore.
Yeah, I think I don't want to belabor that point too much because I've already kind of made it, but I don't know if we ever saw him shirtless during the like Young Americans or Station kind of period.
If you saw him live, he did have a habit of taking off his shirt during the Station to Station tour. But it's true in like most photography from that time. Yeah, he was not. Well, I think the last time on an album he would have been shirtless was Pinups, actually. So
Okay, yeah.
Number one albums. Take off the shirt. That's the message the public is sending.
I guess it is, right? It's a sex appeal, right?
Yeah.
But he maybe has more sex appeal than he would have had at the height of the kind of unhealthy living period. So, I hadn't thought of this cover as a way of showing that off, but it would.
No,
fit with
he
that.
does look quite healthy on it now that you mention it. Although I would say it's interesting because there's kind of a composite quality going to this album cover where, his abdomen, like starting at the lower pecs down, is like kind of, it's got this overlay of like a city sunset backdrop with like some sort of weird abstract like lines going over it. So it's like not like a complete like spectacle of his body or anything, but he, you could see his shoulders and stuff, and he looks like he's in good shape.
Yeah, and do you think this kind of sells the music of the album well?
You know what? I love this album cover for the fact that he's like, the album's called Let's Dance, and you want to interpret that at face value of, dancing on a dance floor, but you could also think of it as let's dance, like, okay, you want to go, let's fight or whatever. That's, where the boxing kind of aspect comes in. So I think it's a really cool double entendre that they actually put into the visuals of this album artwork.
Nice. And then let's look at the back cover of the album, which is done by Derek Boshier and is aping the style of a cartoon graffiti artist named Keith Haring. And we'll get to actually a piece by Keith Haring in just a few images. But as a back cover, again, it looks like we've got the boxing thing going on here. We've got the serious moonlight, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. And before we get too far from it, with the album cover, there's the dots with the letters in them and lines going between them. I'm assuming those are like a depiction of dance moves.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know for sure. So my partner is actually a dance instructor, and I'm dance illiterate. So I'm gonna ask her if she has any interpretation of that. So I'll come back to that in the YBA episode.
I do like that theory.
There might be something cool in that.
Are you also going to ask her if there's a dance called Trembling Like a Flower?
Sure, yeah, I can. I feel like, yeah. Hey, can you show me the dance move Trembling Like a Flower? She'll be like, oh yeah, that one's trending on TikTok right now. Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, but it's something I kind of find interesting here on this back cover is how small the songs are. I don't know if that's a commentary on like maybe how Bowie felt about the material he's released. Like that's not the focus. It's like in that far little right bottom corner you have this tiny print of this is the track listing.
Really not making it easy to read. That's for sure.
Then this is the single artwork for the Let's Dance signal. Obviously very similar to the album cover.
Cool. Those dance moves are more prominent. Maybe I'll have to pull up this to show my partner about it. Yeah. It's a very stark contrast. Like there's less composition going on. It's just his shadow of him boxing and very simple kind of dotted background with the same kind of dance moves, same kind of font for his name. Which, by the way, I really like the Bowie font.
Yeah,
I think it's
too.
a really cool graphic design.
I like this version. Yeah.
Next up, we have the China Girl single, which obviously uses an image from the music video, which we'll get to shortly.
Oh boy.
It's very orange, actually.
Yeah.
There's quite the filter on this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, I don't have a theory for that.
It's just, I don't know if it doesn't look great. Maybe in the 80s, some of the color choices, like in interior decoration and stuff, in the 80s were not they didn't stand up so well. So
I think it's really orange washed. Like there's no real other color in there except very different tones of orange. Just like orange scale.
Yeah, maybe just going back to orange juice. He's just really promoting. He promoted boxing as part of his health routine. Now he's saying orange juice.
Nice.
Yeah, making a lot of connections. Whew, how desperate. Okay, next we have the artwork for the Modern Love single. This is obviously a live photograph. Again, we have the lines coming out.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Again, the photo of Bowie himself is orange washed again. Not that there's anything wrong with it in this instance, because there's other colors throughout it, although it kind of clashes with the letters in Modern Love down below.
The pink on orange is not a great color choice.
Well, Bowie's blonde now.
Yeah.
He's just really going with the blonde look, blonde suit.
Yeah, this is the beige era.
Yeah.
I must say, like, the arrows coming off him kind of gives it like a bang, kind of like energy, shouting
like
kind of vibe. Yeah.
Like a Mike West Batman. Pow!
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of that, like comic book feelings. Yeah.
Okay, the last single, obviously, from the album was Without You, and this is the Keith Haring artwork that inspired the back cover of the album. Yeah, I don't know what you guys think about this.
Well, it's a stark departure from all the other artwork.
Yeah, I know.
It drops the Bowie font, which has been used in all the other ones, and it goes with a much more, I don't know, hand drawn, very. It almost looks like some of the artwork you see from like tribal cultures around the world, perhaps. Yeah. It's like almost like cave painting-esque.
It's true. Yeah.
It's very, very simple. Just black lines over a orange background and nothing in stark detail.
It feels less distinctively 80s to me, which in a way maybe makes it age better.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Like that looks like I don't know. I could see like an indie group using something like this today.
Yeah. It probably does age better because of that. You're right.
Okay, the only comment I was gonna make was actually quite stupid, so maybe we'll just.
No, please. Now I need to hear it. No,
okay, well, I was just gonna say, John, you brought up that for you this kind of feels quite ancient, maybe in its depiction. Andrew, you're saying it feels timeless. I was gonna say it feels kind of modern. The people I'm seeing here remind me of like the logos you see on gendered bathrooms, and I was just saying now you get to see them from a profile, and they actually have quite a nice bum.
They got some cake back there.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a stupid comment.
No, it's not at all.
I like that one though. It's not very complicated artwork. You could definitely say something like that.
Okay, so here's a promotional poster for the album.
It's just kind of funny. Let's Dance features Let's Dance.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no shit.
Wow, it features the title track. That's pretty unique, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, maybe they're doing, because isn't there that Led Zeppelin album? What is it? Is it Houses of the Holy? And there's a song they have called Houses of the Holy, but they're not on the same album.
Yeah, that does happen.
Forget.
Yeah, anyway, there is a Led Zeppelin track that hits that thing. So I guess maybe I just want to alert the Led Zeppelin fans. This is not a trick like that,
At the bottom here, you see produced by David Bowie and Nile Rodgers. So there is like actual, proper credit given there.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I don't know. it seems like pretty cool to see their names together and saying that they produced that together.
Absolutely. But you'll notice, going back to Andrew's comment earlier, it's only available on records and high quality XDR cassettes, no CDs.
No CDs yet, which is interesting. Although I do believe Bowie was one of the early artists to have the whole back catalog reissued on CD, which makes sense. New format, you want to start with something you know is going to sell.
Yeah.
But no, this I do not believe was released on CD when it first came out. But I'm glad to see they were only using high quality cassettes.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, some quick promotional photography from the era. These are some photos by Greg Gorman. What do we think about Bowie's kind of aesthetic at this time?
Very business attire. That's what he's going with. Yeah. Messy hair though, so like a bit of a contrast going on there.
He's doing a bit more like kind of respectable Bowie, who's come a long way from some of his earlier outfits. I mean, this is like, this guy could be in an ad for like Ralph Lauren or something, right?
Well, I
mean, this is actually a really good photo of him.
Yeah, this is the photo by Dennis O'Regan that we're looking at now. I've actually heard some people say that this is David Bowie's Prince Charles era.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting way to describe his look.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess it does, fit with the kind of aesthetic of the sound of the album. There's nothing offensive here. If you're not looking too hard, it is, very glossy and bright. So
yeah, it's in keeping with the album, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, the final thing we're going to cover is the music videos.
Video time. Video time. Chop it up.
As I talked about in the teaser for this last episode, this is the first album that was released during the MTV era, so we actually have true music videos, not just videos that were recorded that later became kind of the official video for the song. So we'll see what was going on. And regardless of what people might say about David Bowie's involvement recording the album, he definitely was super invested in music videos at this time. He storyboarded both videos with David Mallet at his home in the Chateau de Signal, and he also has a co-directing credit with David Mallet on both Let's Dance and China Girl. I don't know why I said China Girl so weirdly, but anyway, the message of this song, according to Bowie, is it's wrong to be racist. Of this music video. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to use music videos not as just a performance piece, but as a way of promoting a larger social message, which is interesting. And what I also find interesting too is he chose, when he's thinking about racism in 1983, he focuses on the treatment of Indigenous peoples in Australia, which is, even today, often Indigenous peoples are overlooked when it comes to topics of racism. So it's cool that he was thinking about that at the time. Apparently, Bowie had become aware of the issues for Australia's Indigenous people back in 1978 when he was there on tour. And he kind of got a similar feeling to the way he felt about the Turkish population in Berlin, which he obviously acknowledged on a couple of tracks from the Berlin era that we will eventually get around to covering. This is a quote he had to say about Australia.
As much as I love Australia, it's probably one of the most racially intolerant countries in the world. Well, in line with South Africa.
Which, is a pretty bold statement, because obviously we know how South Africa was in the 1980s. And then the other interesting thing here is he's super cognizant, actually, of something that Indigenous cultural critics are still bringing up today as a gripe, which is the fact that Indigenous people often, when they are portrayed in media, it's as like an archaic civilization that has not been able to adapt. But Bowie insisted that he wanted to make sure that the Indigenous peoples were portrayed as part of modern society and still vibrant and still having a lot to give. So the lead actors here are Terry Roberts and Jolene King. The video is mostly recorded in Sydney and Corinda, and also in Warrumbungle National Park. And finally, Bowie's piece was recorded at the Corinda Hotel, and this was all done in February 1983. So the Let's Dance video. What do you guys think about this one?
Yeah, it's pretty cool commentary. I didn't know that background, so that's making me think more about it now. Sorry, go on, Andrew.
It's interesting that there's very little dancing.
And actually, unfortunately, the image that did one of the images that did stick with me from watching this music video again was that terrible dance that older man is doing. Like he's doing like a chicken dance.
Yeah.
Like, come on, that was the only clip of dancing we could put in this video.
The Corinda pub or whatever.
There's a bit of dancing at the beginning and at the end of the main character. Is
that's true. That is true.
There's a little bit, they're jiving, The red shoes that they put throughout the video is a cool little touch tying into the lyrics. So put on your red shoes and dance with me, Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It's like they have this whole I think like kind of like a fever dream tied to the shoes of like them going and living in the big city, being, like maybe racially marginalized, I guess, and working really hard. And then you can see in that short, vision or whatever it may be, that they eventually are starting to have money and actually be able to buy nice things and go out for meals and stuff. And so like they're working hard to come up through, the economic ranks perhaps. And then she kicks off the shoes and it all goes away kind of thing.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I didn't really interpret this as we want to be part of modern society, but we can't, although there's certainly barriers, but more so as it's almost like there's a rejection, right?
Yeah.
Like she puts on the shoes and I don't know, the red shoes, like is there a Wizard of Oz thing going on? Like maybe he just
that crossed my
had a
mind.
good rhythm to it, but it takes them to a different place, to Sydney from Corinda or like regional Australia where they start the video. They experience that for a bit. They then take it off, decide to go back to the country, although there's that last scene where they're kind of climbing the hill, and then you see over the hill Sydney Harbour and the city skyline in the distance, and the smog, which I was struck by because that's that 1980s kind of leaded gasoline when all the major cities really had terrible air in the West in a way that we don't, like people of our generation who grew up in the 90s don't like remember or appreciate. So that wouldn't have struck an 80s audience, but struck me.
I didn't pick that out. That's interesting, though, that's in the video.
Haze, right?
I thought it was just cigarette smoke.
Maybe that's probably mixed in there
possible.
Too. Certainly where that would have been filmed in the Sydney Heads, like from that angle, I mean, we're talking multi-million-dollar real estate in that part of Sydney. So they found their way to a very posh neighborhood. But they may just have liked the view from there, right, for the purposes of the video. No, I thought it was neat that it told a whole story here that ties into the album themes of struggling with modernity, turning your back on, like, maybe it's not the church in this case, but the traditional way of life, only to find that like the modern thing isn't maybe quite there, but you're not sure if you want to go back either, right? So it plays with that really well. I lived briefly in Australia for 6 months, and that first scene in the Corinda pub, I was like I haven't been to Corinda, but like there's probably 1,000 towns in Australia that have that same pub. But I was kind of struck by that. I was like, oh, that's I've been there. That's kind of a neat feeling, which I'm sure any Australian listeners would probably identify more than I did even.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned that he was like concerned with the marginalization of Indigenous Australians, because like I've been reading like a short novel series recently that's like of an Australian detective, and basically it takes place in the 1950s, these novels. Okay. And the detective is frequently dealing with Indigenous people. He's half Indigenous himself. For those who are interested, it's the Adventures of Inspector Napoleon Bonaparte. Yes, he is named after the tyrant, warmonger of Europe. I won't get into the details on that, but yeah, interesting novel series because it paints a pretty marginalized picture of the Indigenous people and how people viewed them, and who knows how accurate any of that is, because it is like a fictional novel series, but it's definitely a pervasive thing in Australian culture.
I don't know how well known that is outside of Australia. I mean, we certainly in Canada have had a big national conversation recently about like our own history with Indigenous people. I mean, it's not the same in Australia, but a lot of the same challenges around kind of being pushed off the land or onto worse land, being pushed to the margins of society, the quote unquote education system that left a harmful legacy and substance abuse issues and unemployment, and like there's all that is very similar, or there's parallels to what we've experienced in our own country, but I don't know how well known that is internationally. But it's neat to see attention brought to that, and just to kind of give opportunities to like a lot of the actors in this are Aboriginal, and bringing them the opportunity to sort of perform for an international audience. So I think that's nice to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that, there's some imagery in this video that is super effective. Like, I feel like all the scenes in traffic, I feel like are really great symbolic touches.
Yeah.
I feel like, every scene of David Bowie, he also looks stellar. But there, some of the effects, they're not aging so well. Like the slow-mo reverse stuff.
I was thinking that'd be pretty fun at the time. But it hasn't really aged well. It's like now it's hokey for sure. But
and like when Bowie's head is just floating above the Sydney Harbor, and the two leads are like on either side of him. It's just like Stevie Ray Vaughan apparently actually was quite angry with Bowie for a while because he was upset that Bowie was miming to his guitar solo in the video. Like he felt that it should be him who does it. But I feel like if you're watching the video with any kind of critical lens and you see Bowie's wearing white gloves while playing the guitar, it's probably not really him playing the, you know what I mean? Like I don't think anyone's believing that he was
there.
But
I wonder if they just didn't want to pay for the plane ticket for Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Or maybe they were afraid he would charge them for his Texas barbecue. It'd have to be
right. Fly it from Texas to Australia.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Might be cold by the time.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so I think that covers the Let's Dance video. Let's move on to China Girl. So
boy.
Yeah, I know. It seems like you got some things to say about this.
I don't know. I don't have as much to say, but it's... anyways, we'll get into it.
Yeah. So this video was filmed in Sydney, and the actor here is Yiling Ching. Bowie originally wanted to film the video in Hong Kong, but Ching convinced Bowie that Sydney's Chinatown would do well enough, so that is where it was filmed. The video won Bowie a MTV Video Award for Best Male Video in 1984. Bowie was not at the ceremony, so Iggy Pop actually accepted it on his behalf.
Really?
Yeah. And then, and we'll get to this in just a couple of minutes, but there are two different versions. One is a censored version because Bowie's butt is in one of the videos.
Well, not just his butt, they're having sex on the beach.
That's true. But I mean, that's kind of implied in the uncensored version.
I guess it's implied. That's true. But it's not shown as explicitly.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, John, what do you want to say about this video?
First of all, him pulling his eyes to make it, I guess, look quote unquote Chinese is super cringy. That's the thing that jumped out of me right away. But other than that, there's some interesting kind of shots and metaphor throughout it. I could see why it actually, was credited with being a good music video after all.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my interpretation of that gesture. Okay. So I think maybe there's like some meta commentary going on here about colonial violence and just how it can take forms that we might see as docile or we might kind of turn a blind eye to, right? So like the thing about the eyes, when Bowie is in the city street, he's throwing traditional food in the air, kind of making it obviously not using it as food but as a prop. At the beginning when you see them in the restaurant, he has trouble eating the food, and I feel like it's just all these blunders that the dominant culture will make, and we don't always see as how it might impact, how that might be a microaggression, right? How that might impact a racialized person, right? And then when Bowie and Ching kiss, right, then the video turns into color, and then maybe we're showing that like when you actually engage in some sort of personal relationship with a racialized person, then like you become maybe more aware of like the larger effects of our actions, or the kind of undercurrents in society that we might miss if we don't have those kind of relationships.
Oh, I love that. That is an excellent interpretation. I feel like I want to, agree with all of what you just said.
I would hope that Bowie didn't do that eye thing thinking it was actually funny.
Well, what I was wondering about that is right before, Ewing does this thing where she kind of pushes her nose back, like kind of flattening her nose. And I was wondering, like, are they kind of doing a thing where they do like impressions of each other? Like she's doing
making fun of each other.
I don't know if that's like a stereotype of European people that they have in Chinese culture, or whether it's meant to be David Bowie. Like she's kind of changing the shape of her face to be him. And then I don't know whether that's his response to that is like, oh look, I'm Chinese. Like I'm not saying you should try this with your Asian friends or whatever, but I did wonder whether there's maybe a playfulness or like a not thinking through, I don't know, the way it would look to posterity maybe to that.
I think when you think about it, I think when you think about that in the context of like it symbolizing the ignorance of like white people in Australia or wherever the majority population to a minority population, it does kind of seem like, it's commenting on the ignorance of perhaps the dominant culture or whatever. By the way, I like how they play out the "Oh baby, shut your mouth." Like it's a very long shot of them just face to face and
they have
doing
great
that.
chemistry in that scene.
They do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think throughout, like they clearly, it seems like there's a genuine connection.
Yes. Yeah. They did date for a little bit after this video, so.
Oh really?
Yeah, there is some truth there.
Oh my gosh, can I tell you what my favorite shot in this music video is?
Dude, it's
like the sweeping helicopter shot of the bassist on top. It's kind of like in the middle of the video, this epic sweeping shot. I'm just wondering what's going through the head of this bassist. He's like, what the hell am I doing here? It's like I thought it was really funny when I saw that shot.
As an aside, for the Spotify listeners, Spotify now has like video background when you play a song, and you'll get the music video, but you'll only get like maybe 10 seconds of it, and then they repeat it. It's like very annoying. I don't know why they didn't license the whole video.
It might be a bandwidth thing. It's less, internet bandwidth to stream just a loop rather than a full 3-4 minute thing.
So are you saying that it's just the bass player part?
Unfortunately, it's not. It's Bowie throwing, I think it's a bowl of rice in the air. And then the two
it's not Bowie doing like stretching his eyes repeatedly.
They didn't put that there.
Okay.
But it's the same for Let's Dance. I think you get the bar scene and then one of the street scenes. I forget, but that's disappointing that they didn't, because you can turn that off if you want, just audio if it's sucking too much data. So
too bad.
That's fair. Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. It is a little shame when you know the full video.
The helicopter guy did not make it in, unfortunately.
Are we going to briefly talk about the uncensored video?
Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's more skin. Bowie's nude butt, which was the highlight for me. So yeah.
I still think when he is running and he's like undoing his tie, I still think that is the most attractive thing Bowie does in that video. I think he just looks fantastic.
Damn right sexy. There's little tweaks to like the skin they show in the video, like that whole like cringy moment where Bowie stretches his eyes. Like, in the original video you don't see it, but in the uncensored video you see like his naked shoulders. It's weird. They've zoomed out ever so slightly, and you realize that his shoulders are naked, which gives you the impression that he's completely naked or at least topless. Which is, it's like an interesting little subtle tweak to it. Obviously,
that's cool.
Yeah, obviously the beach sex scene at the end is like the biggest thing they changed, where they gave just more explicit shots and yeah, more obvious shots of them having sex. But yeah.
No, that's a good catch.
And so is Bowie.
There you go.
Okay, the final video is the Modern Love video, and I bet Andrew loves this one because it is a performance video filmed in Philadelphia at the Spectrum between the 19th to 21st of July 1983 during the Serious Moonlight Tour. It was directed by Jim Yukish.
Yeah, long-time listeners will know. Long-time, we're on what, episode 6? But
yeah.
Long-time listeners will know my thoughts on performance videos. I don't think there's that much interesting here. It is nice to see a bit of that kind of Bowie like hip shake going on. And I missed that from some of the
good hip shake, absolutely.
Concerts, but that's really the only thing that jumped out at me here.
The thing that I thought was great was actually the lighting that was used on the tour. Like I think it's, you know, when they're doing things with like different shades of purple and reds. I think like actually now because I saw this video, you know, when I was getting into Bowie a long time ago, and so like when I think of Modern Love, those are the exact colors that come into my head when I'm thinking about the song. And the only funny thing I think here is you see lead guitarist Earl Slick. He's like, I think he's like doing like a lunge jump in the background while he's playing guitar, which is funny because like obviously in the album version there is no lead guitar, so like, it's just funny that you see him doing this dramatic thing, and you're like, you're not actually in the mix, like no one can hear you. But it must have sounded good live, probably, that little jump.
Yeah, I always wonder, like with the footage they use, it's like, yeah, there's almost certainly other footage from like other songs in the performance that they filmed. Like I remember there's like one brief shot of like from basically the back of the stage, you see Bowie's back singing in the mic, and it's like he could be singing like literally any other song, and you wouldn't know. I'm generally not a huge fan of concert montage videos either. I think it's, I don't know, kind of like a cheap way of making a music video, which certainly is. But yeah, there's no depth to it to me. What I do take away from it, I kind of, you guys touched on, is I like seeing the live performance. It is kind of, when I look at it as like, oh, this is what it was like seeing him on this tour and seeing what they're performing was like, I really like that part of it. The funky business attire and like white collar attire is pretty cool as well. Yeah, I don't know, fedoras and like striped suit jackets and stuff like that. I think it's a really cool balance between like the kind of business, more clean cut look that Bowie was going for and the funky side of his music in this era, you know? I think it's a pretty cool set design and all that, and the performance looks brilliant.
Awesome. Well, that concludes our discussion on Let's Dance. In the next episode, we'll be covering again remixes from the album, and this that episode actually is going to cover remixes ranging all the way from 1982 to 2023. So,
holy smokes, really?
Wow. Yeah, so we'll be covering a whole bunch of different sounds and approaches to remixes.
We get a Skrillex remix of it?
Unfortunately, there is no Skrillex.
Shoot. Okay.
Sadly, yeah. But there are some interesting mixes. So we'll talk about that next episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah,
we really
appreciate
guys. It. It's been fun spending time with you.
Time.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to try doing that again? We're completely talking each over.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate spending time with you today. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Looking forward to getting into the details in the next episode of some of the extra, like, fringe things about Let's Dance. I'm excited about that.
And as always, don't forget to keep your head warm.
Please come alive. Please come alive. Alive. Alive.
I think I locked one of my dogs outside in the back.